First kissing. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If you'll please rise and say the pledge together. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And would you call the roll, please?
You got the roll sheets? Oh, you do? Okay. You want me to call the roll? If you have, are you going to do it? I can do it. I can do it. Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Mrs. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Thank you. And I would entertain a motion to approve our regular minutes, meeting minutes from June 21st.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bullitt. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any corrections? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you. Motion carried. And comments of board members, I'd like to welcome everyone this evening. And I have just a couple of things I'd like to say. I'd like to welcome especially Emma Davis, who is our new education reporter for Knox Pages. So hope you'll all make her feel welcome and appreciate your coming this evening. I'd also like to thank our food service and our transportation for feeding our students this summer and all the extra work they've gone to. That's really a nice thing that they've done for our community, and I really appreciate their going the extra mile. I'd also like to thank our community for supporting our students with in-kind contributions and also financial contributions. You'll notice on our agenda we even have some this evening, but throughout the summer we've received that, and our school community just really appreciates that, and our teachers, so thank you so much. And with that, Mrs. Getzman, would you like to?
I too would just say welcome to everyone. I know we're in summer and not a lot of activities in the school in terms of extracurricular, but I know in the community there are lots of kids participating in activities. I know we have volleyball going on tonight and football's going on tonight. So we see that, but not only do we see that, but we see our arts are performing as well. I know the Music and Arts Festival is coming up, and there will be our students participating in that and various activities. We have the fair coming up. There are lots of children participating in the fair. So our children are out and about in the community, and the support that we continue to receive, as Dr. Bennett said, from the community is outstanding. So again, thank you to the community for continuing to support our kids in their many ventures.
Thank you. Mr. Bullitt-Dye.
Thank you. Thank you for being here this evening, and for those at home. I've been ruminating on the importance of public education in our public schools, and I wanted to mention some of the various careers that some of our jacket graduates have embarked upon. I know personally of a scientific researcher who was a graduate, a nurse practitioner who happens to be my doctor. We have mechanics, we have professional homemakers, we have private business owners, hospitality workers, authors, artists, performers, playwrights, and of course, teachers. And we're especially proud of the students that graduated from Mount Vernon and are coming back home to teach. And when people tell you that our great public schools are not up to par, just remind them about all the children that are right here in our own community that are giving back. So that's partly to the community too. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Workman.
Thank you. Also like to welcome everyone. Echo some of the same thoughts that have already been mentioned, but in talking about activities, it's nice that we can talk about activities and kids getting involved in different things and the fair coming up. So all very exciting things, and I'm glad that we can get back to some type of normalcy. So again, thank you for coming.
Thank you. Mr. Thompson.
Well, again, I welcome you all here. Some of you have been here for the first time, maybe, and especially in our new facility here. And I already stated, step outside that hallway and just see all the excitement that happens virtually every day. This is a tremendous asset for the community. I would mention what Mr. Guladai said in regards to those who have gone on and taken on occupations and so forth. I heard a statistic today that says for every employed person, there's 4 openings that remain unfilled. So it is incumbent on us to make sure that we do the best we can to make sure people are trained up well. But it's a pretty daunting situation we have with people, for the people that we need, for the jobs we need to fill. But they need to be ready for it. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you. Mr. Cedar.
I too would like to welcome everybody here tonight on behalf of Gary, who wishes he could be here. He's not here tonight, so that's why we're kind of trading back kind of yays and nays, those kinds of things. But we certainly want to welcome you. This is our second time to be in this building for a board meeting. We're working out some of the technological kinks. You can see cameras kind of everywhere, and we're live streaming this. So we've got some very capable gentlemen who are working on this now, and hopefully not only do you get the chance to participate, but so do those who are on YouTube Live right now. So we thank you and welcome.
Thank you. And we don't have a student government report this evening. Yes, did you want to say anything? No. Thanks for coming anyway. And is Mike here this evening? Okay. And we have one public participation, Mr. Duckline. And I would ask if this is regarding the retire, rehire. Okay. Would you like to speak at this time?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you like to come forward?
No, I come in tonight as a concerned Christian, former coach. I've coached in this school in the middle school football program. I've coached in the high school baseball program. 18 years of Little League baseball. And as my walk through all this, as a Christian, this is where my concerns lay tonight. We see the darkness that is approaching. And I've talked with a few different people lately. Matter of fact, I think about, maybe a year ago I talked to you in your office, and we had a great conversation. And if you remember, I said it's coming, and it's going to get worse. The adversary, the devil, is coming after our children. And we talk about, well, we've got new teachers coming on and this and that, and that's all great. But the indoctrination that comes from our colleges to come in, we have got a problem with all the isms. And we got everything from communism, Marxism, transgenderism. The influence is so overwhelming. So when you take the light out of a room, what happens? It goes dark. We have taken the light out of our schools. We have kicked God out. For years now, we've been working on this. Way back when they took prayer out. Now we've kicked God out. And I'll bring this up tonight, that one of the downfalls that started, and it's been in other cities, it's just like back when John Freshwater got removed. Some of you might not agree, and some of them, I know deep down, agree with me, because I talked to a lot of people, and they agree. That good man should have never been removed. I talked to a bunch of people. Over the years of coaching for 25 years, you meet a lot of people. With a car lot, I meet a lot of people. And I've been throwing this out, and everybody's saying the same thing. And also, not only with all the LGBTQ coming into our schools, and I got a print out the other day, I should have brought it, Planned Parenthood coming into our schools. What are we doing? Having Planned Parenthood coming into our schools to teach children about sex. I got the report right from the Planned Parent website. They send me emails, they don't even know who they're sending them to. So I printed it out. And they're gonna do a program through the school systems. It's titled something, Talk to Your Friend About Sex. And there's even talks of paying students to be involved with this, a $450 fee. So here we are, the #1 abortion clinics in America that kill babies. And there was one found in a dumpster in Whitehall just about 2 weeks ago, a baby, outside of Planned Parenthood. There's a lot of things that go on that I believe as Christians we're blind to. We are blind to some of these things. And also across the nation with the racism nonsense. And I would tell you this much tonight, there is not racism in this country. Everyone is created in the image of God. The racism is all blown out of proportion. So whatever schools are bringing in, I don't know for sure what you got going on here, but I will tell you this much, I'm gonna watch and I'm gonna find out what's going on in the schools. I will tell you, I'm coming back for the rest of the year on every meeting, and we will be sharing with hopefully more pastors, Christians, and people just concerned about their children. Especially when the idea is coming up now of bringing them back in and masking them up. Hopefully it doesn't happen here in Mount Vernon, but I'm gonna tell you, when the Marxist group of our demonic government says they're gonna drop the hammer and you're gonna mask these kids, you will mask them. That's what's gonna happen. You're like, well, we just gotta follow the government. No, we don't. There comes a point when the government is corrupt. We need to follow God with a capital G. The government is God's with a little g. The scripture talks about it. Scripture here in Matthew 19:14. But Jesus said, suffer the little children and forbid them not to come unto me, for of such is the kingdom of heaven. And he laid his hands on them and departed thence. Now, if Jesus was good enough for the children in the Bible, why is it not good enough in our schools? But yet now that we have no FCAs in the schools, which FCA in the middle school on lunch groups was the best thing that ever happened to this school. I got to speak probably 6 or 8 times to the kids as a football coach, middle school football coach, and freshwater there. We had to speak to a lot of kids, 50, 60 kids every lunch group, and the kids loved it. And it was a volunteer thing. They could either go out the doors to recess or come in the band room. And the kids that came in there for 6 or 8 minutes loved it. But now all of a sudden it's been removed, and now you want to go to, well, let's just come in the after-school programs. Well, they allow Wiccans, witches, all kinds of evil programs, after-school stuff. They can get anything in and have their little meetings. I don't know if you have any here or not, but some schools do. And it's just, well, let's just let all the groups in after school. Now all of a sudden I got approached the other day by a well-known group around town. It is, they're starting the CEF, the Child Evangelism Fellowship. These people contacted me, had me come to the meeting. You know why? Because they want to know if I want to be a part of coming in after school. I'm going to pray about it. I'm really not into that. We'll just come in and hide after school, and we'll keep Jesus under the cover here. But they called because they know the background, the history that I'll stand. So you know what they asked me? They said, hey, we don't have, maybe I'm letting the cat out of the bag, but I'm gonna tell you right up front. They said, can you come? We would give you the spot at Wigan Street School. And the lady said, she's on the committee, she said, it's really dark down there. I said, oh, I know. I've been to Kenyon, I live in Gambier. I know what's going on down there. The evil, it is so dark down there. And so I'm seriously considering about doing the 1 night a week with the little children, because it says right there, here's what got me, look at this. Every child, every nation, every day. Here's what's wrong in America. The kids have no knowledge of God. They're told there is no God. Evolution's real. On and on and on. We teach evolution. So now the kids, they don't fear God. They don't fear man. They don't fear the parents. They don't fear nothing. So you look at today at what's going on. Child suicide rate is through the roof. Child suicide. I think, and don't quote me, there's 3 or 4 suicides right here in Mount Vernon in the last 3 or 4 weeks. This is ridiculous. Ridiculous. And the blood is on our hands as Christians. If we don't do something to change this nation and take our schools back, woe unto us. Here's scripture out of Psalms 82. This was just used yesterday morning. And if you would like, there's a sermon online at newbeginningsministry.org. This is what Pastor Bill preached on yesterday. There's no justice in America. Psalms 82, verse 1, God standeth in the congregation of the mighty. He judgeth among the gods. How long will you judge unjustly and accept the persons of the wicked? Defend the poor and the fatherless. Do justice to the afflicted and needy. Deliver the poor and needy. Rid them out of the hand of the wicked. It's the government. That's the wicked. They know not, neither will they understand. They walk on in darkness. All the foundations of the earth are out of course. We are out of course in this nation. I have said, ye are gods, and all of you are children of the Most High, but ye shall die like men and fall like one of the princes. Arise, O God, judge the earth, for thou shalt inherit all nations. I heard a guy say the other day, with all this stuff going on, we left our church open through the COVID. Because when the health department and the sheriff's department called in March of last year and said, Pastor Bill, you need to shut your church down. He said, oh, no. We will not shut the doors. Government's not going to dictate what we do. We're going to follow God and not government. He said in March, there'll be suicides, overdoses, domestic violence. He told them all the first week of COVID. Here's what's going to happen.
Mr. Klein,
Yes.
I think you're over your time, but we appreciate.
Did you time it?
It is now at 6:16, and I think
Okay.
you.
Well, I was just going by, I think. I wanted to make sure you timed it. All right, well, thanks for letting me go a little over, but
For sharing your opinion,
And
and
if
if
there's
you
any
have
thoughts-
anything you'd like to share.
any
further,
thoughts or
you're welcome
concerns
to
you
email.
have later, if you want to stop in the car lot, any of you want to stop in my car lot and chat, we'll have a cup of coffee, I would be glad to talk. Thank you.
Thank you. And there was no other public participation. We are down to board items for discussion, and we are at the point where we're having the public hearing per the Ohio Revised Code, section 3307.353. And the board is holding a public meeting on the issue of Mr. William Seaver Jr. and Mr. Stephen Tier being reemployed as retirees. So if there's anyone who would like to speak at this time, this is the time.
May I ask a question? What are the benefits of that?
Usually with retiree hire, there's a salary reduction and maybe even other benefit reductions. So that's typically the case. And it used to be that you didn't even pay insurance, but that has changed as TRS no longer offers that benefit. But initially, years ago, that was an additional benefit.
Thank you.
And the positive thing is that you're keeping people, you can make the decision, excellent people that you don't want to lose, you get to keep them, continue to work, who maybe they're young enough that they have all the vim and vigor and expertise that you need, and you want to keep them along, so even though they're eligible for retirement. Good question, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we can move forward then to
John's Drive. Another item for information.
the board will, oh, I'm sorry, part B. As required by the same section of the Ohio Revised Code, the board will hold a public meeting on the issue of Mrs. Pamela Rose being reemployed as a retiree on Monday, September 20th, 2021 at 6 p.m. at Energy Fieldhouse in the same room. So that's just an announcement. We have to announce it at least 30 days in advance, and that meeting will take place at that time. Thank you for reminding me. And were you going to?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion for us to convene into executive session as a board to discuss items for approval, that being the administrative contract for Mr. Cedar and Mr. Stephen Tier.
Second.
And You made the motion, you seconded. Okay, call for, yes, please.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mrs. Dye?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, and we will continue the meeting after the board reconvenes. But we're not closing the meeting, we're just going into executive session in another room. So. And I don't know how long that will be.
We'll wait to hear from you.
Thank you.
You okay?
Would you take the roll? then?
Yes. I have us coming back at 6:30 for Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Thank you. And we do have an item for approval. It's recommended that the board grant a new 3-year administrative contract for Mr. William Cedar Jr., and we will do that first. And we are voting on the initial proposed contract. So if you would, I would entertain a motion to that effect.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Whitman. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And if you will call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And welcome back, Superintendent. And we have a second, need for a second motion to approve granting a new limited teacher's contract to Mr. Stephen Tier. And new limited means a 1-year contract. So I would entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Regola-Dye.
I
Do I
will
have a second?
second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzman. And if you'll call the roll on that, please.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And welcome to Mr. Steve Tier as well.
Well, thank you. I certainly appreciate that, and of course, really heartfelt here for the district, and have that verve and vigor to continue to move it. And obviously, there are parts of retire-rehire that are hard for some folks to understand, but yet it is a process, and I'm glad to continue some work with some great people, quite frankly, some of them right here in the room, that we've got work to do, and I'm excited to do that. Section 6 here are additions and deletions to the agenda. So we've made some additions and deletions since it was sent on Thursday. You'll see an addition under Section 10 for Educational Special Services. You'll see also Fannie Howie proposal for a boiler contract, architect engineer piece, and some extended days for Lane Shoemaker, Frank Scutella, and Martha Mealy. And you'll also see the addition of Caitlin Getzman as cheerleading advisor and James Bennis as substitute custodian. We did make some deletions to the agenda based on some transfers, and these would include, as has been listed there, you'll notice Caitlin's down here. We've just moved that part of the agenda so that we can all vote on it. Board members cannot vote on spouses and or children who might be working in the district. So, under superintendent's report, I do have some items for information that I'd like to share tonight. Not as much as it's a July board meeting, but nonetheless, just some quick items that are going on in the board right now in our world. Number one, back to school. It's hard to believe that we're sitting here talking about July 19th. And we have new teachers coming in like the 12th and the 13th. We have opening staff meetings coming up in the middle of August. So we're kind of past that halfway point. We'll be sharing some back to school information in the coming weeks. The information will include important dates, reminders, and back to school safety protocols for the start of the 21-22 school year. And so more information will be coming about that. Obviously, we're kind of coming out of, but still have some challenges with COVID. I can tell you right now, it is our intent as we move forward that our kids will have the option to wear masks, but there will be no requirement. But they will have the option to wear them. And you'll hear more information about some of those things as we come back. And we're going to work closely with the Knox County Health Department as well as state and local folks. So that information will be coming. Just to keep you updated on staffing changes, I kind of captured this since our last meeting. We've had 8 retirements, 18 resignations, 19 staff reassignments, and 30 new employees. And for whatever reason, lots of reasons, every district is experiencing similar kinds of challenges. A lot of kiddos moving closer to home, therefore you get resignations. Those create dominoes, so reassignments have been plentiful. And then, of course, we brought on some new staff, and some of those new staff have been to really kind of counteract some of the learning loss we've had in the last year. So that's kind of there for your information. Many of us went to a model schools conference here recently and got kind of reinvigorated a little bit with a visionary process that we had prior to COVID. We met as a district leadership team, and we're really starting to move in this direction. And obviously that got kind of held up. And so as we went back, we got kind of reignited a little bit. And it was the idea that Mount Vernon City Schools will be a student-centered, future-focused district with a growth mindset wrapped around high-quality instruction where all students can be successful in an ever-changing world. And we kind of have that graphical piece just to kind of walk our way through that. We spent a great deal of time right here in this high-quality instruction piece. And really, and I think that'll be a little bit of a focus from us from a professional development standpoint. But we have to prepare our kids for a future of which they're going to encounter. And we need to be very student-centered as we work through that with a growth mindset that, you know, we're going to fail, and we have to be able to get back up, and we have to have resilience, and we have to work towards being the best we can. So that just kind of is something I thought I'd bring back based upon that. The Esser Funding, we went into a little bit more specifics, but just to remind you that this is on the website and some of those specifics that we're doing. We're really focusing in these 4 areas: learning, recovery, and support for schools and students, infrastructure improvements, technology, and development professional learning. So those are things that are going to continue. And hopefully, as I share maybe in my next little piece about a board work session, you might have an idea that we'll talk about some of those issues. We thought I would give you just a quick little update on just so many of the summer maintenance things that are going on. Paving projects at Pleasant Street, the high school, middle school, central office, drop ceilings at Pleasant and Dan Emmett. And we had a lot of those that still had that kind of popcorn stuff up there that the health department has really been wanting us to kind of clean up. That's being done. At the high school, quite frankly, we were transitioning from all that old carpet as you walked in that looked really old and brown and dingy. We're moving to tiles, and I'll show you just a little quick picture of that. Much easier to clean, sanitize, and quite frankly, looks better. Painting throughout the district, fencing at Cumbie and the stadium, cafeteria and classroom furniture upgrades, theater and auditorium upgrades, and then ongoing projects like our boilers, windows and doors, and school-based health center are things that we continue to have conversations about. Just to give you an idea, there used to be a whole bank of lockers right here. This is, if you're not even familiar with what you're looking at, on the other side of this wall is the gym. And so this used to be carpet, now it's these tiles, and it's going to run all the way up and down both sides. Obviously, we've kind of painted this. The lockers have been removed. There'll be tables and different things put in there. The Hall of Fame kind of things are going to be computerized and put up on display boards. I mean, so just trying an effort to kind of improve some of the standings that are going on. And if you haven't been to Pleasant Street in a while, we've been doing some work there over the past couple years. This whole area just recently got repaved there. So just kind of a quick little synopsis of a lot of the work that's going on. And we'll continue to update you on some of those.
Now, did they take the island out? Go back, because when I was there at Pleasant Street a couple weeks ago, they had just started and they were moving around the island there, but it looks like, did they take the island out?
That's a drain.
No. There was like an island that went close to the canopy.
I see what you're talking about there. Let me look.
But it looks like they took it out.
I don't remember an island.
Could you walk? Oh, you know what? I think they had.
Parking.
I think they had the parking bumpers,
Okay.
whatever you want to call
Okay.
those. And you're right. I don't see that those are back, which kind of made a barrier
Right.
between that and the
bus
road.
lane.
So that's a good question. I'll have to double check and ask on that.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Well, the buses now if I'm
They
correct,
go
go
over
around the
the way.
back.
Yeah.
No, the buses actually drop off in front
They're
now,
gonna go in front now, okay.
and they have been this past year or so.
And
So
maybe
it's-
just in the back yet, too.
And actually, yeah, the back is where the parents are dropping off. So, yeah, things have changed, even since Miss Regola was.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
like, wait, that's not my school.
Yeah, it looks
Just
great.
yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It looks great.
Under items for information, under superintendent's report, I did ask the board to look at your schedules. Like to get back to some work sessions where we really stay focused on just a couple topics. Generally, there's not a lot of motions and approval of certain things here, but we have some financial and facility focuses that we want to bring to your attention. We may have the city may come in and share some on the community reinvestment areas, as well as getting into some of these Esser kind of things that we want to make sure the board is kind of aware of as we move forward. So I do have a number of items in this section for board approval. There are two. Home and community school student participation in athletics, and you see those names there. And the 21-22 student handbooks. Thank you for some of you who have sent us some just added comments relative to certain sections, because I know you all go through those. And I have made note of those, sent those to the principals, and they're making some of those adjustments. So I know it's a lot of reading, and really the elementary handbooks are really supposed to be identical, with the exception of some pertinent early information. So hopefully it wasn't too much. But I have those two items for your approval tonight.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve those two items as read.
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. Were there any questions or comments? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann, Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And we are to curriculum, and I'm going to forego my report this evening. We have grandchildren. And I had a trustee meeting for over 5 hours on Saturday, so it was a little hard to get done. I did read all of them, and some of them are interesting.
What interesting they were.
Very interesting.
But I'll let you read
Read
them for
those in our-
yourself. Not take time this evening.
Under this section, we have no items for board approval tonight, which kind of moves us on to fiscal services. And I think Mr. Hankins is kind of watching remotely. We just weren't able to bring him in at this time, so he's kind of shared some information that I would share with you. No items for information at this time under fiscal services. I will open up the financial report, and I'll point out to the things that I kind of look at. I know there's a lot of detail and a lot of work that goes in here, but this is the June reporting period. And if you recall, we run a fiscal cycle from July to June. So we just closed out most of the books. And so as you go down here, I'll go all the way to here. The thing that I generally draw my attention to is how we end the year. And if total revenues, and in this case, the revenues here are higher than our expenditures, we're feeling good, and we like that.
So are we.
And so, you know, we're trying really hard to utilize our own funds, funds that we're getting from the CARES Act or the Esser funds, to really keep ourselves in a good financial footing as we move forward. So that's kind of a big piece there. I will say that at the end of the fiscal year, we made $108,586 in investments. So I would just highlight those two things for you tonight. And under appropriations or modifications, you'll see this every month, really only one here on this particular month. And you can see across the top, if I blow this up enough, here's 630, so this is as we ended June. There was an appropriations of $748,000 that went from the general fund. We've talked about kind of the food service gaps and the challenges we've had there. This was our ability to move those funds and make ourselves whole as we kind of move forward. And certainly that's not all part of that, but we have to kind of move those monies around. And so those were two items for board approval, as well as donations. We have a couple donations tonight. The high school art department from Jeannie Mullendor, 8 boxes of Color Aid paper and several art books. And at Pleasant Street, Dwayne Leedy, $500 to be used for the students, which is certainly a kind gesture. So those 3 items for your approval tonight.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve those as written.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Do I have a second?
Second?
Thank you, Mrs. Gulladine. Were there any questions?
No questions, but as Bill alluded to, the revenues versus the expenses, and I know with this past year was very tough on a lot of people, and just wanted to say thank you to all of those that went above and beyond to make sure that we were fiscally sound for the year, so.
Well, and I think I would even go thank you one step further and applaud the board, because we were getting close a year or so ago to starting, that bridge was closing, and we met very strategically, tried to make some adjustments. I don't necessarily want to call them all cuts, but we made adjustments in the right areas. And we did certainly get some support with some Esser dollars that allowed us to keep ourselves financially solid here. So. Okay.
I echo that. Thank you.
Item 10, business services.
We need to call.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you'll call the roll.
Yeah.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried. Okay, Mrs. Gulladine, you're up.
Thank you. Just briefly, the biennial budget bill, HB 110, authorizes the creation of district-operated online learning schools. The emergency federal monies are still available through the Emergency Connectivity Fund to use for computers, Wi-Fi, hotspots, and broadband. And later in the July report from OSBA, Governor DeWine signed HB 244 into law. It prohibits public schools from mandatory vaccinations, prohibits discrimination against an individual who hasn't received a vaccination, and modifies quarantine procedures for those coming from high-risk countries. The governor also signed SB 52 into law. It permits a board of county commissioners to designate a restricted area that prohibits the construction of utility facilities in the county. Then the State Board of Education established promotion score of 683 for the 3rd grade reading guarantee. The board also appointed Deputy Superintendent John Richard as interim state superintendent. And finally, the Fair School Funding Plan includes about $10.9 billion for districts over the next 2 years. An estimated per pupil cost would be an estimated $7,202 according to an analysis by the Legislative Service Commission. And these will not be automatic funding formulas. The per student calculations will be made in the future budgets. So nothing is written in stone, even though it's in a law.
Of course.
Okay, any questions or comments or needs for me to go to any of the legislators?
Well, it was discouraging about the public schools, and I feel like we lost that battle as far
Yeah.
as the charters, but I feel like the budget's been favorable to us.
Yes.
So we're pleased with that, and as I understand it, that charters will not be deducting from the public schools.
Correct.
So it will come out of a different fund, so that's good news for us, so.
Yeah, and you know, that's been an interesting conversation, the voucher piece. And I will say this though, that in my opinion, the state budget for education is going to be just this big. And while it may not come out of us personally, when it comes out of the state budget, that makes this budget a little bit smaller. And so it's one way or the other. So, you know, we just have to be very, very cautious as we move forward and project as best we can. And we will have to continue to tighten our purse strings, because I think we're going to see the impact of that.
And we have to be great schools so that kids want to come.
And it's we're on this, we have to do that 5-year projection,
Forecast, right?
but this is a 2-year
It's only a
budget.
2-year budget.
Yeah.
So some things are just not going to square away.
I will say with House Bill 110, and you talked about the online learning, they have now given some choices, and Pam and I were talking about this today. You know, we have our digital academy. We could make that digital academy its own IRN or its own school. But we don't run our digital academy in a traditional sense. Most digital academies are, hey, you do all your work online. we have always maintained the position, we wanted them to at least come in half a day. So we had them physically here, and then they could work on their work, the second half of the day, or they could earn their ability to go off. So I sense that we're probably gonna stay in a blended learning model versus this online new school remote model. So House Bill 110 did provide that option that we're gonna kind of carefully look at.
Thank you.
Under this section, we have a number of items for board approval. This is my section. We have an Educational Service Center contract with Tri-County Educational Service Center. That was, I think, an addition to the agenda, but that's for our Medicaid billing that we've done every year, and they just sent that to us today. There is a Fannie Howie proposal, so as you know, we've got some bigger projects that we're looking to use some resources towards. The high school, of course, is a 1969 building and it's run off of 6 boilers for a long time. We're looking to put in new boilers, and that'll be much more cost efficient, and we'll go from 6, I believe, down to 4. The challenge when you do that is you have to have those architects and engineers have to do all the specs and the bidding for it, because it will be a project over $50,000. And so what you're seeing here is Fannie Howie, who has done some of our construction work here, a proposal for their work so that we can take our boiler project out to bid. You'll probably see a very similar thing coming down the pipe relative to doors and windows as we move forward with Esser funds at Dan Emmett, Wigan Street, and the high school. So just preparing you that you're gonna probably see some of these proposals. Now they're generally built into the cost that we put into it, but we have to have architects and engineers put these bid specs together. And then that means there's a bid then. So on a particular day, people will bid for this work. We're probably thinking this work and the doors and windows, which we'll talk about in August, will take place towards next spring or next summer. That provides us the greatest amount of time to get good competitive bidding when work is being sought after. That's usually when the price is the best. If I needed it tomorrow, guess what? The price would be a different conversation.
Right now, yeah.
And then I think that's it. Those 2 items for board approval in this section.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve those 2 items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I will second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Workman. And were there any questions? Okay, if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. Thank you. And Student Services.
Right, I do not have any items for information this evening. I do have a number of things that I'm recommending for board approval. The first one is our agreement with Spectre Corps. This will be the 2nd year that we've had this agreement. They are language interpretation services, so when we have an IEP meeting or any other kind of special education meeting, they join a translator joins us by Zoom, and we're able to have that conversation with the parent. We used it last year a number of times, and parents were so appreciative that they heard the meeting in their own language, and they were able to ask their questions in their native language. It was a wonderful addition to what we are doing. I also have some transportation contracts. These are for parents that we are reimbursing as students are being educated in different environments than our district. And I have a contract for GCL services that this is when we have students that are placed at the Village Network Residential Treatment Center in Worcester. The LEAP program is who educates them during that time period. Most of the time that's a short stay while they're being evaluated and assessed before they're put into a different placement. So it's not generally a long term. The other one is EJ Therapy. They provide the occupational and speech therapy for those same students that I just had in number 3. So I would ask your approval for those 4 items, please.
Okay, thank you. I would entertain a motion for those 4 items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Getzmann. Were there any questions?
No questions, but just a comment about all the services that our great public schools provide for special needs students. and going about finding those and doing those needs is a Herculean task. So I really appreciate it, and I know the rest of the board does too. So thank you, Pam.
Anything else? Okay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola-Dye?
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann?
Yes.
Mr. Workman?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Dr. Bennett?
Yes, motion carried, thank you. And we have certificated licensed staff.
Under section 12, personnel and certificated licensed staff, just a couple items here for information. We do have some salary change notices that we made some adjustments for, some based upon contract length changes, and some just based upon sharing with us they may be advanced in their degree of educational attainment. So I've given you that as a item for information. Under items of approval, this is a rather large section, as I shared with all the staff changes. So for the 2021-22 school year, you're going to see a host of resignations at various buildings, and again, all folks who have really done a great job for us. You're going to see some transfers. We did have a number of transfers here based upon a couple of these resignations. And then even though we had the large list of new hires in June, that didn't stop us in July. We'd have to hire a few more folks. So you're seeing some names here that we'll certainly try to bring back to you in August in some sort of a video that I know Kathy has always done a great job in working on, kind of a picture and a face to a name, so to speak. And so these are some folks that will be kind of coming back in as new teachers. It's always great to have substitute teachers, especially in a year like we had last year. And you know, we're rehiring all these folks to be substitute teacher eligible. And so we're thankful for them. Summer school teacher, we have a number of administrators who are looking at contracts this year. A number of home instructors for some of those special needs situations. Again, that doesn't mean they're all doing the work. They're just on the list to be eligible to do that work. And then we have some tutoring and some extended time contracts. I know this is one we added for our school nurse just because of the challenges of what we're in right now. And of course, you know, some of these are pretty standard things that we've done over the years. And then some supplemental contracts for your approval tonight.
Okay, long list. I would entertain a motion to approve all the certificated licensed staff items. Thank you, Mr. Workman. And do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wood. Were there any questions? Mr. Cedar, I would like you to comment. If people see all these changes, I think it's important for them to know how many people you've had apply for positions that you've been able to really hire quality in spite of all the openings.
You know, we have been really blessed. There have been a lot of years where we didn't always have a lot of applicants for jobs. And the sooner we're aware of positions, the sooner we can get out information. And we've really made some strides or efforts this year to promote these jobs beyond just traditional census. I mean, we not only go online to Ohio Means Jobs, we use our website, we use our a number of different search engines for jobs, including things like Indeed.com. I mean, so there are a number of websites that we've tried to really ramp up just the awareness that there are jobs here. And early on in our hiring process, we could have 50 applicants for an elementary position. Sometimes at the secondary levels, it gets a little tougher when you get specialized into specialized subject areas. As Darcy well knows, who's shaking her head, yes, you know, you get special science and special math, those numbers shrink, and quite frankly, we're all battling with the same people. So it has been a challenge, but we have, I think, been able to really reach out to greater sense.
Okay, thank you.
Dr. Bennett, just before we do that, I captured my daughter is in the substitute approval process, so
You'd like her pulled out then?
if you could take the substitutes out, or I just abstain from the whole list, I could
Well, I
do
think
that.
it's better if we take the substitutes out as a whole, or just her. Reference?
Whatever's easiest.
Pardon?
Just vote twice, just take her,
Right.
take her out.
Thank you.
So the first time, we'll include everyone but her,
Thank you.
if you'll
Jennifer
tell.
Hubbard.
Okay,
What I'll do is I'll go ahead and move her down to the second, which then we would only have three people voting. That's still okay, so I
or
could
we can do it as a vote on each of
separate
those
vote.
Yeah.
Do the motions still stand? Mr. Workman and Ms. Regola-Dye
Are you willing
on
to
the
be
list,
amended?
inclusive of everyone except Jenny?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thanks for catching that, we appreciate it.
Okay,
If
so
you'll
call the roll.
the roll, please.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And now we vote on, is Katie first on your list, or?
Is there an objection to putting that in just the singular? Does that matter? I mean, if I put her here,
You still have.
we still have
You
a
still have
quorum.
quorum.
Right.
So add
So we already
Jennifer,
have-
Prefer to do that, or vote on them separately?
add Jennifer into with Caitlin. Is that what you're
sure.
saying?
That's what I was thinking.
Is that okay?
Okay.
Okay.
You good?
So
I'm good with that.
Then we don't have to change our form. Okay, I would entertain a motion then to approve Jenny Hubbard and Kate Getzmann.
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Gulladye, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Workman. And if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
sorry, I've lost track of where I need to be. Mrs. Getzmann,
Abstain?
Mr. Thompson,
Abstain.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried.
Oh, we carried that out just really well.
Sorry for the commotion.
Thank you for.
So many, it's hard to sometimes catch those names. Under the classified staff, our final section for tonight, we have no items for information, number of items for board approval tonight. We have Mark Kime as food service director. We have the employment, middle school aides, substitute employments for substitute custodians, and I do have 2 resignations tonight for your approval.
I would entertain a motion for the classified staff items, those 4 items.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second? Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And were there any questions? Okay, if you'll call the roll, please.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And I would entertain a motion then to, we do need to go into
I
executive.
did.
session.
I mean, I know you all went into something separate here, but I do have 2 items here. One is to share about investigation, and the other is for the purpose of the bus garage property, to bring you up to speed on that.
I would entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Gulladye. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Workman. And if you call the roll.
Ms. Regola-Dye,
Yes.
Mr. Workman,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann,
Yes.
going backwards, Dr. Bennett.
Yes, motion carried. And there will be no action taken afterwards.
No action taken.
We appreciate all of your time. Thank you. We are
Here, everybody.
adjourned. Yes.